This week I left Red Poppy Ranch and had to go to a very specific place to get some materials, and it just happens to be one of the bigger cities in the state that I live in. And on my drive across the state, where they have many wind generators, of course, I come across a blade that has to be well over 100 feet long for one of these wind generators. Then on one of the few occasions where I accompany my wife to the grocery store, I nearly get assaulted by what seems to be an oversized Roomba vacuum. One of my absolute favorite Chris Ledoux songs is a song called Ain't No Place for a Country Boy. And it's a song that talks about a young man that goes to the big city. He basically takes everything he owns, puts it in a cardboard box, manages to catch a bus to the city. He arrives at the city with $19 in his pocket. He has to then spend $7.50 to get a place to sleep. He wakes up the next morning and he realizes he is seriously in the wrong place. And he must do whatever he has to get back home. The last thing I have to do is run a line from here all the way back to the panel. I'm going to have everything out here on its own circuit. So that's all I have left to do, is to get the wire up over my rafters, brought down and tied into the panel. Then I'll have light switches and outlets out there. When I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there, I would listen to Chris Ledoux CDs until I would literally ruin the CDs. For one of my birthdays in there, when Cedar and I were dating, she bought me Chris Ledoux's box set, and she would have to again buy that for me later because I ruined the CDs listening to that music that I grew to love so much. Chris Ledoux would talk about nature and peace and the animals and ranching and family and all of these beautiful things that deep down in me I have some sort of a connection to. When I would listen to his music, something inside me identified with the way he sung his songs. His commitment to his family and hard work seemed to come out in everything that he did. Whether I was aware of it or not, I was always looking for my little slice of heaven. As I would travel around the country on vacation or for business or for whatever it might be, I was always looking for the right small town where Cedar and I could raise our family. About 10 years ago, as I was traveling for our business at that time, I would travel all over the country. Oklahoma, Texas, Kentucky, Florida, Carolinas. And when I would get back home to Arizona to my wife and kids, I would begin the process of trying to talk my wife and kids into moving to one of these places.
All right. If I did my job right, we should have lights right now. Boom. Boom. This is the room the animals hang out in more than anything because it's so much warmer than anywhere else. The chicken coop room, because there's no window in there yet, it's very breezy and very cold over there. If we happen to need light in the middle of the night for any reason, we've now got it. And now we've got power out here as well. I put everything on the same circuit. And once this gets inspected, I'm not sure how the inspector is going to feel about that. I can't remember if these outlets meet code or not. I think they still have to have a weatherproof cover, so I'll have to keep that in mind. But anyway, next stop is to get that chicken coop done.
The problem with all of these states that I traveled to, that in some cases I was very interested in, Kentucky for example. I knew that in Kentucky I could get a lot of land for my money. I had a connection to Kentucky. My grandfather lived there. I loved that about my heritage. I loved having a connection to Kentucky. But I really didn't know anybody there. And it helps to have people around you when you might be relocating like that. The end result is family was a major factor when it came to our decision. But still, we were unsure of the right place to raise our family. So we did what we do in these moments. We prayed about it. Guess what? Jesus doesn't care where you live. He simply cares about the good you do. Regardless of what religion you cling to, you can do good wherever you live. That's the consensus we came to. But I blame my dad for the overwhelming desire that I had to move back to Idaho. I've talked about this before, but I was always with my brothers. when I was with my dad, whether it was doing service work for somebody in need or whether it was simply taking care of our own place. We were always doing things together. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, we did a lot of camping as a family. Because my dad was a school teacher, we were able to take some of the most beautiful months of the year off and spend it in nature. This left an impression on me as well, but at some point, as me and my brothers and sisters might be sitting around talking with my parents, the family ranch in Idaho seemed to always work its way into a conversation. It was almost a sacred place to our family, and maybe my dad or my grandpa never explained that to me, but in my heart I knew this. I knew that all of my family that worked on that ranch and lived on that ranch worked incredibly hard to keep it. After my grandmother passed away when I was 12 years old, my grandfather slowly sold off all of the farmland and then eventually the farmhouse. That seemed to be the beginning of the end as far as that ranch is concerned and my future. But in my travels, if I ever got anywhere near this side of the country, the old ranch house and the family cemetery was the first place I stopped. But I knew that Cedar and I had to figure out a way to raise our family on our own ranch, even if it is only 42 acres. I tell our story again simply because it's a reminder of the effort that was required to make a massive change in our life and move our family 800 miles away to live the life we want to live.
It's just plastic. It's not hard to cut. It's just expensive, and I'm going to probably have to buy 2 sheets. You don't want to do the chicken coop, the nesting boxes on this wall. You want them on this wall.
I know.
So, and then I'm going to do a bunch of roost bars right here.
Perfect.
And I'm going to tie it into the nesting boxes.
And you're covering this with something, right? What?
It's going to look just like this with batten strips.
Okay.
Once we get it finished, we got to lock them in here for probably at least a week so they know this is home.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put an opening.
Hi, Ellie.
I'm going to put an opening, like not that quite that high, but an opening. It's probably a foot off the ground. So
they can go through. That'll be fun. And what's this for?
I just put an outlet in every room.
Maybe to plug in the water heater?
You know, that's an option for sure. If we can find some sort of a really, really, really low voltage. No, they pull a ton of amps. That's the problem. Is most of those pull a lot of amps and they don't shut off. They just run. And so in the wintertime when we're running the generator, that's not really something.
It's almost like you could just turn it on for like a few hours in the morning or something.
Well, I'm still, because we have a spot right here, I'm still thinking about building some solar panels that are 12 volt panels that I can find some sort of a 12 volt heater. There's got to be something out there. I just haven't found it yet. So, yeah, did you rake out that over there?
I moved 31 boxes.
Okay, all right, never mind. Sorry. Are you going to get kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost done.
As much as I love all the family and friends that we have back in Arizona, there was just too much for me in the city. If you're looking for anonymity, the city's the place for you. But something inside me didn't like this. I like the idea of knowing your neighbors very well and living up close and personal with them. In the last house that we lived in before we moved from the East Valley in Arizona to Idaho, the house that we lived in the very large subdivision we lived in, we knew one of our neighbors. Because it seemed that living in the city caused life to be incredibly busy and expensive, and it was just simply hard to slow down and get to know your neighbors. This wasn't for us. You know, I've heard sayings like fortune favors the bold for my entire life. And while I agree with that statement, sometimes it's just simply hard to navigate. Meaning, where do I go from here? What kind of risk do I take? As a husband and a father, I was never ever comfortable with taking a risk that might endanger my family. So I didn't do it. I learned that as a service plumber, I could get a job just about anywhere. So that's my worst case scenario. I'm a plumber, living where I want to live, working for somebody that I probably don't really want to work for, but it's a massive step in the right direction because you moved. Most people spend their lives thinking about how much change would be an inconvenience, and they talk themselves out of it and they don't do it because it's scary. They choose to live vicariously through people like us because they're scared. But I get it, not everybody wants to live the way that we live, that's fine. So do something else that feels fulfilling. I don't know what that is for you, but I do know this. If you're not happy, make a change. It can be very simple that way. But guess what else I know for fact? If you change nothing, nothing changes. This is also true. I know, I talk about this stuff all the time, but I think I talk about it because I want you to have the same feeling that we have about our place. It isn't that Red Poppy Ranch is necessarily spectacular, or that we have the latest and greatest of whatever may be out there. It's the simple fact that we made a massive change. We had faith and we recognized how important this was, but we also went to work. And this seems to be a major factor in the process. If I take religion out of it and simply talk about the universal laws around effort and hard work, those two things are just as important as faith is. Maybe more important, because if you don't do your part, faith doesn't matter. Our Creator, the universe, whatever you want to call it, requires effort. And I don't care how beautiful your prayers might sound when you're trying to talk the good Lord into your new homestead, and all you need is for Him to do all the heavy lifting, find that rich uncle of yours, and magically get the homestead of your dreams without any effort. This whole thing does not work if you're not willing to do your part.
I had to have a second piece of the polypropylene plastic that I got from the big box store, and it's $90 a sheet. I was really hoping I could make this window work with one piece, but it just didn't. it wasn't going to look right. And the truth is, rather than putting them at 4 feet, which it's a 4x8 sheet for $90, rather than putting them at 4 foot on center and then having a small 2 foot piece on the end, I cut them back to exactly 40 inches, which now they're all even. So on the next video, I got to build something on those seams, but I also have to build something that's going to offer just a little bit of stability, because this little pocket right here, wind whips around here, and it's already trying to blow that little bit of plastic out. So anyway, that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to get the chicken coop finished. I'm going to build some beautiful nesting boxes. I'm going to get it completely finished up.